What if the shiny lights of Hollywood are hiding a dark, sinister truth that no one was supposed to talk about? We see our favorite stars on stage, winning awards and smiling for the cameras, but few people ever ask what it actually cost them to get there. Today, the curtain is finally being pulled back on some of the entertainment industry's most powerful figures. This isn't just about the shocking legal battles surrounding Diddy or the infamous parties that made headlines. It goes much deeper into a pattern of alleged exploitation, broken trust, and young artists who were left to deal with the psychological fallout. From Justin Bieber and Jaden Smith to Usher and Brisha Gray, a disturbing picture is emerging. Industry insiders and former bodyguards like Jaguar Wright and Gene Deal have come forward with incredible claims, connecting high-profile names, shadowy inner circles, and the harsh realities faced by young performers under the guise of mentorship. When a visibly shaken Justin Bieber once broke down in tears, saying he just wanted to protect younger artists from going through what he experienced, it left everyone asking the same question: what really happened behind closed doors? Why did Usher once flatly refuse to ever send his own children to the same environments he experienced in his youth? And how deep do the connections between these legendary figures actually go? Today, we are taking an unflinching look at the allegations, the resurfaced footage, and the voices fighting to expose what really goes on behind the scenes. Watch until the end, because once you see how these pieces connect, you will never look at Hollywood the same way again. To understand how deep this narrative goes, you have to look at how young talent enters the industry in the first place. The entertainment business runs on a model of mentorship. A legendary producer, an established actor, or a music mogul takes a talented kid under their wing, promising protection, guidance, and direct access to the top of the charts. On the surface, it looks like the ultimate big break. But over the years, multiple insiders have claimed that this dynamic often blurs the lines between professional guidance and extreme personal control. The story begins with the interconnected webs of some of the biggest names in hip-hop and pop culture. For decades, Sean Diddy Combs was seen as the undisputed kingmaker of the music industry. If Diddy signed off on you, your success was virtually guaranteed. But alongside his legendary status came a culture of high stakes, exclusive inner circles. Insider testimonies, including statements from former security personnel like Gene Deal, suggest that the environment surrounding these elite circles involved situations that went far beyond typical industry networking. According to various industry accounts and resurfaced interviews, the overlap between major Hollywood figures was much tighter than the public realized. Figures like Will Smith and Diddy operated in the same high-level social spheres for years. While the public saw blockbuster movies, red carpet appearances, and squeaky clean family brands, commentary from controversial industry figures like Jaguar Wright paints a very different picture. Wright and others have alleged that behind the scenes, powerful figures maintained networks where young, vulnerable performers were introduced to environments they were ill-prepared to navigate. Take the case of Usher, for example. Before he was a global superstar, he was a teenager living with Diddy in New York during the mid-1990s. The arrangement was pitched as Flavor Camp, a trial by fire where young artists were immersed in the lifestyle of a music mogul. Decades later, during an interview with Howard Stern, Usher admitted that he witnessed things during that time that were eye-opening, to say the least. When Stern directly asked Usher if he would ever send his own children to a similar camp, Usher's response was immediate and definitive: absolutely not. Former associates, including Gene Deal, have made even heavier claims about that era, alleging that the physical and emotional toll on young artists in those environments was severe. Deal has spoken openly in various interviews about specific incidents where young performers suffered extreme stress and health crises while under the care or influence of industry executives. While these stories were once brushed off as rumors or backstage gossip, recent legal filings and public revelations surrounding high-profile figures have forced people to re-examine these older claims with a much more critical eye. The pattern, according to critics and commentators, didn't stop with Usher. It shifted to the next generation. When Usher himself became an established mogul, he brought a young Canadian singer named Justin Bieber into the spotlight. Bieber was just a kid when he was catapulted into unprecedented global fame. Almost immediately, he was introduced to Diddy, and public videos from that era show a young teenager spending extended periods of time with an industry titan who promised him access to sports cars, mansions, and exclusive parties. At the time, the public viewed these interactions as mentorship or harmless fun between a veteran mogul and a rising star. But years later, as Bieber grew older and faced intense public struggles with mental health, substance use, and emotional burnout, those early videos began to look very different to viewers. In an emotional interview with Zane Lowe, a visibly distressed Bieber broke down into tears when discussing younger artists entering the industry, specifically mentioning Billie Eilish. Bieber openly expressed an intense desire to protect her, stating that he didn't want her to go through the traumatic experiences he had endured as a child in the business. He spoke about how people in the industry would tell you they love you, only to turn their backs on you in a second. While Bieber was navigating his own rise and subsequent burnout, another young star was growing up in the spotlight under very different, yet allegedly parallel, circumstances. Jaden Smith, the son of Hollywood royalty Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, was thrust into the entertainment world at an extremely young age. From starring in major feature films to releasing music, Jaden's career was closely managed by his parents and their extensive network of industry associates. Over the years, public concern for Jaden grew as his public persona and health seemed to fluctuate wildly. Insiders like Jaguar Wright have made direct, scathing allegations against the Smith family's approach to raising their children in the public eye. Wright claimed that the environment around the Smith household involved severe pressure, exposure to mature dynamics far too early, and an environment where young artists associated with their circle, such as actor Brisher Gray from the television show Empire, suffered major public downfalls. Brisher Gray's trajectory is often cited by critics as a prime example of the toll the industry can take on a young performer. Gray, who rose to massive fame playing Hakeem Lyon on Empire, was mentored by major industry figures connected to the Philadelphia and Hollywood networks. However, following his rapid rise, Gray experienced severe legal troubles, behavioral crises, and mental health struggles that effectively stalled his career. Commentary from people who claimed to know the situation behind the scenes suggested that Gray was passed around high-powered circles, given promises of grand career moves, and ultimately left without a proper support system when things spiraled out of control. The core argument made by critics of this system is that it creates a cycle of trauma. A young artist is brought into a powerful circle, exposed to extreme lifestyles, and manipulated by promises of fame and success. When that artist grows up, they are often left to deal with the psychological fallout alone. Or, in worse cases, they are pushed to repeat the same pattern with the next generation of young talent coming behind them. This brings us back to the broader allegations surrounding the overlap between these powerful social circles. For years, rumors persisted about elite, closed-door gatherings where normal rules did not apply. Self-proclaimed industry insiders, former bodyguards, and social commentators have claimed that these gatherings served as dynamic power plays, where leverage was collected, boundaries were pushed, and young talent was systematically compromised. Whether looking at the early days of Diddy's camp, the public struggles of Justin Bieber, or the unorthodox upbringing of Jaden Smith, a common thread emerges. The entertainment industry has historically lacked the proper safeguards to protect minors and young adults from adult pressures and potential exploitation. For a long time, the public dismissed these stories as mere conspiracy theories or sensationalized gossip. But as formal legal actions mount and former insiders continue to break their silence, the conversation has shifted from if these things happened to how long they were allowed to continue. As formal legal actions mount and former insiders continue to break their silence, the conversation naturally turns toward accountability. For decades, the sheer concentration of wealth, influence, and media control enjoyed by top-tier moguls created a wall of silence that seemed completely unbreakable. Victims, witnesses, and lower-level employees who attempted to speak out were routinely discredited, threatened with non-disclosure agreements, or blacklisted from the entertainment business altogether. To understand how this wall began to crumble, one must examine the role of independent commentators, former security guards, and industry whistleblowers who refused to stay quiet. Among the most vocal has been Jaguar Wright, a singer-songwriter who spent years working within the highest circles of hip-hop and R&B. Wright has consistently used public platforms to deliver raw, unfiltered critiques of industry elites, naming specific individuals like Will Smith, Sean Diddy Combs, and Usher in her commentary. Wright's allegations focus heavily on what she describes as a systemic failure to protect young performers. She claims that the public image projected by Hollywood families and record executives often masks a deeply transactional reality. In her interviews, Wright points directly to the Smith family, arguing that Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith established an environment where traditional childhood boundaries were dissolved under the guise of artistic expression and spiritual enlightenment. This dynamic was displayed publicly on platforms like Red Table Talk, where the Smith family openly discussed deeply personal, highly sensitive family issues, including Jaden Smith's early exposure to plant medicine and psychedelics like psilocybin mushrooms. While the family presented these discussions as progressive breakthroughs in mental health treatment and spiritual growth, critics viewed them through a much darker lens. To outside observers, exposing a young adult to mind-altering substances and broadcasting those intimate experiences to millions of viewers was evidence of a household lacking fundamental parental boundaries. The consequences of this unconventional upbringing, according to industry observers, manifested in Jaden's public struggles with severe physical weight loss, extreme changes in appearance, and public statements about feeling detached from reality and struggling with his own ego. While Jaden has maintained that these experiences were transformative for his personal development, whistleblowers argue that his trajectory mimics the classic signs of emotional fatigue seen in children thrust into mature, high-pressure environments before they are cognitively or emotionally equipped to handle them. Beyond the Smith family, the broader narrative connects directly back to the inner workings of Sean Diddy Combs' empire, an empire that for years was viewed as the pinnacle of Black entertainment and financial success. Diddy's annual white parties and exclusive late-night gatherings were once attended by the biggest names in music, film, and politics. However, subsequent federal indictments and civil lawsuits filed against Combs painted a dramatically different picture of what occurred behind those closed doors. According to federal prosecutors and court filings, Combs operated an elaborate enterprise that facilitated what were dubbed freak-offs, multi-day, coerced sexual events that involved heavy drug use, physical coercion, and secret electronic recordings used as potential leverage against participants. The legal documentation alleges that these events were carefully orchestrated operations involving personal assistants, security staff, and high-level associates who ensured that standard law enforcement and media oversight could never penetrate the inner circle. This legal reality cast a stark, unforgiving light on older footage that resurfaced across social media. Videos showing a 15-year-old Justin Bieber spending 48 hours with Diddy without parental supervision, with Diddy promising the young star sports cars, mansions, and access to his lifestyle, were no longer viewed as harmless celebrity bonding. Viewers and analysts began reevaluating those historical clips through the lens of the criminal charges brought against Combs, asking hard questions about where Bieber's legal guardians and management team were during those critical years. Gene Deal, who worked as Diddy's personal bodyguard during the height of Bad Boy Records' success in the 1990s, has provided detailed accounts that support these concerns. In numerous public statements, Deal recounted instances where young artists under Diddy's influence were subjected to extreme physical and psychological distress. Deal specifically referenced situations involving Usher during his time at Flavor Camp, describing incidents where the young singer was allegedly exposed to highly inappropriate adult behavior and required medical attention due to severe physical stress and trauma. What makes Deal's testimony particularly compelling to researchers and the public is that he was an eyewitness positioned directly outside the doors of these executive suites. He recalled specific moments where established artists knowingly brought younger, aspiring talent into environments where they were vulnerable to exploitation. According to Deal and other former staff members, a culture of hazing and compliance was established early on. If a young artist wanted a record deal, radio airplay, or movie roles, they had to prove their loyalty by submitting to the demands of the executives controlling the gates. This brings us to the devastating psychological impact on the survivors of this system. When a young person is subjected to boundary violations, forced compliance, and intense public scrutiny, the long-term psychological damage is profound. In many cases, victims develop severe coping mechanisms, ranging from substance abuse and eating disorders to extreme behavioral volatility. The public breakdown of actor Bieber Jaden serves as a stark warning sign of this phenomenon. Once a rising star with a lucrative TV career, Gray's rapid descent into erratic public behavior, legal altercations, and emotional instability raised alarms among fans. Those close to the situation, including Jaguar Wright, alleged that Gray's downfall was not simply a case of personal failure, but rather the direct result of being introduced into toxic industry circles where he was used for influence and abandoned when his mental health deteriorated. Similarly, Justin Bieber's public journey, marked by sudden cancellations of world tours, public emotional breakdowns, and periods of severe isolation, reflects the heavy burden carried by child stars who survive early industry exposure. Bieber's decision to pull back from the music business, prioritize his marriage, and step away from high-profile industry events like the Super Bowl performance with Usher demonstrates a deliberate effort to break free from the environment that caused him so much pain. The broader question that remains is whether the entertainment industry can ever truly reform itself, or if the structures of power are inherently built to enable exploitation. While federal investigations and public reckonings have brought long overdue scrutiny to figures like Diddy, many critics argue that focusing on a single individual misses the larger problem. The network of enablers, the managers who signed away temporary guardianship of minors, the record executives who turned a blind eye to obvious abuse, and the media outlets that covered up scandals in exchange for exclusive access, remains largely intact. Until there is complete transparency and systemic accountability across every level of the entertainment machine, the cycle threatens to continue. The stories of Justin Bieber, Jaden Smith, Usher, and Bieber Jaden are not isolated incidents. They represent a continuous thread running through the heart of modern pop culture. As more survivors find the courage to speak and more evidence comes to light, the public is forced to confront an uncomfortable reality. The entertainment we consume has often come at a terrifying human cost. As the public confronts this devastating human cost, the overarching conversation shifts from analyzing past traumas to evaluating what real justice, systemic reform, and long-term healing look like for an industry built on silence. For decades, the entertainment business relied on the public's willingness to ignore warning signs in exchange for glamour and hit records. But as the legal system finally begins to catch up with long-standing allegations, the old mechanisms of distraction and public relations control are no longer functioning as they once did. The ongoing federal investigations, high-profile arrests, and wave of civil lawsuits against figures like Diddy Combs have shattered the illusion of invincibility that long surrounded Hollywood moguls. For the first time in modern pop culture history, high-level executives are facing tangible, life-altering legal consequences for actions that were once swept under executive rugs. Legal experts point out that the charges being brought, ranging from sex trafficking to racketeering and forced labor, set a heavy legal precedent. These cases signal to the broader industry that managing a high-profile talent agency, record label, or production house does not grant immunity from federal oversight or basic human rights standards. However, many whistleblowers and former insiders emphasize that true justice requires looking beyond the most visible figures. The infrastructure that enabled systemic harm relied on a broad web of silent enablers, talent managers who ignored obvious red flags to secure lucrative contracts, security teams who guarded doors during private events, and legal advisors who crafted aggressive non-disclosure agreements designed to intimidate young victims into silence. Modern legal experts suggest that for genuine accountability to take hold, the civil and criminal liabilities must extend to these corporate entities and management teams who prioritized financial gain over the safety of minors and vulnerable young artists. For the survivors who grew up inside this high-pressure machine, the journey toward personal recovery looks vastly different from the public spectacle surrounding courtrooms. Artists like Justin Bieber have chosen a path of public distance and personal boundaries, stepping away from demanding world tours, scaling back high-profile industry appearances, and focusing on family life and personal stability. By choosing to prioritize his own mental health over commercial expectations, such as declining major promotional opportunities and stepping back from high-stakes performances, Bieber has modeled a crucial boundary for future generations. that professional success is never worth compromising personal peace or mental well-being. In a similar vein, the public narrative around Jaden Smith and other young performers raised in high-stakes Hollywood environments serves as a cautionary tale about the boundaries of youth in the public eye. The shift in public sentiment has moved away from mocking or sensationalizing the eccentricities of child stars toward recognizing the profound psychological pressure placed on children forced to navigate mature adult topics, public judgment, and family expectations long before reaching adulthood. Observers and mental health advocates increasingly call for stricter labor laws, mandated psychological support, and independent advocacy boards for minors working in the music and entertainment industries, mirroring protective measures that exist in other high-risk professions. Furthermore, the rise of independent commentary, social media investigative channels, and direct whistleblower platforms has permanently altered the dynamic between major media outlets and the public. In previous decades, a powerful record label or film studio could easily suppress a story by threatening to pull advertising or withhold access to major celebrities. Today, voices like Jaguar Wright, former security personnel like Gene Deal, and numerous independent journalists can bypass traditional media gatekeepers entirely, bringing testimonies, resurfaced archival footage, and analytical breakdowns directly to millions of viewers worldwide. This democratization of information has made it nearly impossible for problematic behaviors to remain hidden indefinitely. The ultimate lesson of this ongoing reckoning is that the culture of hero worship in entertainment must fundamentally change. For too long, audiences elevated talented producers, charismatic actors, and visionaries onto pedestals that rendered them untouchable, mistaking creative genius for moral integrity. Moving forward, the public, the media, and industry regulators must maintain a standard where talent and influence do not excuse exploitation, and where the safety, consent, and mental health of young performers are guarded with the highest priority. As these legal battles play out in federal courts and the stories of survivors continue to surface, the industry stands at a critical crossroads. The era of unchecked power, backroom deals, and silent complicity is rapidly coming to an end. Whether through federal legislation, independent union oversight, or a permanent shift in consumer demand, the message from both survivors and the public is clear. The days of sacrificing young lives for the sake of Hollywood's illusion are officially over.